Julian Mininsohn. Julian, entering this week, the Vanderbilt Commodores men's basketball team was the highest-ranked team in the SEC. They were undefeated on the season, 10-0. Of course, they go on the road there, and I said it during that show, and I said every now and again in the SEC, there's just some weird weeks, and it's just teams go on the road or they just play weird at home, and there's some upsets. Vanderbilt happened to be caught in one to a Texas team that was rolling after beating Alabama. What did you make of that game and the first loss for the Commodores?
You know, it's something that maybe this kind of needed to happen. They weren't going to go through the entire conference schedule in the regular season undefeated. We know that is impossible. And you are bound to have games like this and throw up some duds throughout a tough SEC schedule, specifically on the road. Now, I will say that this game against Texas highlighted some things that Vanderbilt needs to improve on, but also some kind of chinks in the armor a little bit. Though Mark Byington got a bunch of very long athletic athletes in the transfer portal, some bigger guys to go along with the Devin McLaughlin in the paint, they clearly were outsized by Vokatitis down there. I mean, they had no answer for the guy. And you saw that not only in the free throw disparity, points in the paint, there was a disadvantage there. Rebounding, they were out rebounded a ton, and they just didn't shoot well enough also to, I guess, mask some of those deficiencies, at least in that road game against Texas. And so that's going to be interesting because up on the schedule next is one of the bigger teams in the SEC, and by bigger I mean long athletic dudes in Florida, where you could have, you have Hogue, you have Chinyelu, you have Condon, take your pick. It could be another issue where Vanderbilt sees like there are, we have some trouble with longer teams who are bigger up front.
Before we move on to the Florida game, I think I said on the show yesterday that I've seen enough Texas basketball when they were in the Big 12 to know that the Moody Center is probably haunted, like Nick Saban would always say about Jordan Hare. I think this game, when I was taking a look at it, I think it kind of exposed what happens when Tyler Tanner does not have a good night. And when you look at this Florida team, their guard play hasn't been the greatest. They're led by Houck, they're led by Condon. So what do you need to see out of Okereke heading into this game?
Well, more than 0 points.
Yeah,
I'll tell
that's
you that. Like him and Jalen Washington, you can't go scoreless, right? Because they're not necessarily, in my eyes, like the deepest team right now. Of course, hopefully, if Frankie Collins is able to return at some point, that'll provide another guard off the bench. But like, if Tyler Tanner doesn't have a 20, 25 point performance, they're going to struggle. And when you have two key players who play big time minutes for you, combined for 0 points, that is not going to do it in an SEC schedule where the room for error is so like razor thin. Also, you got to defend without fouling. And Jalen Washington, part of the reason that other game where he didn't score is he didn't stay on the floor enough. And so you got to be available. You can't get into foul trouble. You can't disrupt your offense. And if you're looking ahead at this Florida game, the fact that Tyler Tanner is on your side, that is somewhere where maybe if Vanderbilt is able to speed up the game, hit some outside shots, not have the game slow down on them where Florida could take advantage of you size-wise, that's somewhere where they could shrink the margins and potentially win this thing.
So after their first loss, Coach Mark Byington and company looking for some answers here. Coach Byington talking a little bit about moving on from this one as they get ready for their weekend game.
The SEC games feel like this. And, it's very difficult on both ends. You're going against good players, good coaches. And, there are runs. I was hoping we have a run there towards the end. And we got it to 4. I thought we could dig in there a little bit and kind of put some more pressure on them, but they made the plays, the last 8 minutes to be able to separate the game. So I don't like losing. It's, we're not used to it. Now's the situation with this team is we got to see how we handle it and how we come back from, taking a tough loss. And, what's up next? We got the defending national championships at an early game. We'll get back super late tonight, and then we got to get up early and play a team that's probably playing as good as anybody in the country right now. So that's the SEC. We signed up for it. It's tough. It's challenging. But when a team plays as well as they did tonight, you got to learn quick and move on, and that's what we're going to try to do.
It's a really interesting scheduling spot here, Julian, because typically if you play your midweek game on the road, you'll play your next game on the road as well. So you pack your bags and stay. But Coach brought up a great point that it's an early tip-off, and you're going back to Nashville. How do you feel that Coach will, after this first loss, be able to help adjust his team to travel and everything else to get ready to play early Saturday?
I think he'll do a fine job of that. I mean, Mark Byington knows what it takes to go throughout an entire SEC schedule after doing it last year. And the interesting thing when it comes to Florida, you need to make sure your guys are rested because they are physical up front, and there's going to be some bumps and bruises after this game, no doubt. And I think just also an overall reset. It'll be good to get back at Memorial Gym, too. I mean, I think in an ideal scenario, after suffering your first loss in SEC play, your first loss of the season, you'd like to go back and play at home and get some home cooking as well. As we talked about earlier, they've got to defend without fouling. They've got to shoot a lot better. And sometimes just having some fresher legs and resting your guys in between games, that's what you're gonna have to do, especially against a team like Florida with the championship experience that they have. One guy in particular who needs to get out of this witness protection program, whatever the heck he's in, is Tyler Harris. I mean, they brought the dude in. He was 50% from three when he was at Washington, and now he's at 29% this year. And I think they expected him to be a lot better than he has been. An unreal slump for the guy. Yeah. So maybe somebody like him to get a spark off the bench. You're going to have guys throughout the SEC schedule, because it is a long season, give you performances that maybe you don't expect. And so I'm looking at Okereke. I'm looking at Jalen Washington. Yeah. Looking at Tyler Harris, guys who were not necessarily the most productive in this last game. You're going to have to get more out of those guys, because if you go through an entire season of just hoping that Tyler Tanner scores 25, 30 points a game, it's not necessarily a recipe for success in team basketball.
Julian, real quick before we flip to the women's side, what do you think, what matchup are you looking forward to the most here with this game against Florida? The guards going up against each other or the bigs going up against each other?
I mean, when I played in high school and a year into college, I was a guard. Obviously, I'm like 5'11" on a good day when I stretch. So anything
when I stretch,
when you put the special shoes on.
Yeah, the lifts. You know what I mean? What is it? No guy is 5'11", right? Is that the
yeah? They're all 6 foot.
Yeah.
But anything with Tyler Tanner and Boogie Flan, that'll be interesting, dynamic. Obviously, I'm interested to see how Mark Byington goes about defending these guys down in the paint. I covered Ruben Chinyelu when he was at Washington State. During those times before he transferred to Florida, and he has gotten a heck of a lot better in just a short amount of time being at a power school now. So interesting to see how Devin McLaughlin goes up against him and Condon, how they're going to, maybe they throw different people on him so one guy doesn't necessarily get in foul trouble. Maybe they give him different, maybe a zone look and a man-to-man look, so kind of throw Florida off their game a little bit. Again, it's going to come down to, can Vanderbilt hit shots in order to slow the game down for Florida offensively as well? And can Vanderbilt speed up the game and control tempo too, getting Tyler Tanner, Tyler Nickel, guys out in transition to spot up and hit down jumpers? So we'll see how that goes.